I was deeply troubled and confused about what was happening in my life. I couldn't even understand what was going on with me. My mind became exhausted from constant thinking, yet my overthinking never stopped. I even shared my struggles with a therapist. They gave me various pieces of advice and techniques, but none of them really worked for me. Then one day, I felt led in my heart to learn more about God's Word, so I started searching and reading about it. I kept wondering, is life really just about worrying about the future? Is there no solution to the problems we face in life? Believe me, I found 5 Bible verses that completely changed the way I think. I could hardly believe the difference they made. My mental state gradually started improving because God's Word is truly living and powerful. Today, I want to walk you through all 5, not just what they say, but what they actually did in my real life, in real moments, when my mind was at its loudest. Number 1 is the one that quietly changed the most. Verse 5, Romans 6:16. Romans 6:16 talks about how whatever you keep obeying becomes your master, whether you realize it or not. I didn't understand how much this applied to my thoughts until I really paid attention to my own mind. Every time an anxious thought showed up, I would just follow it. It would say something bad is going to happen, and I would spend the next 20 minutes building a whole story around that one sentence. I never questioned it. I just obeyed it, like it was in charge. One night, I caught myself doing this, spiraling over an email I hadn't even sent yet, and I remembered this verse, and it hit me. I had been treating my anxious thoughts as the boss of my mind, not facts, not even necessarily true, just loud, and I had been obeying loud instead of obeying true. That was the first shift, not stop having anxious thoughts. That's not realistic, but stop automatically obeying every thought just because it showed up. I started asking, is this thought actually true, or is it just being loud right now? That one question changed a lot of nights for me. Verse 4, Philippians 4:7. Philippians 4:7 talks about a peace that doesn't make logical sense, one that goes beyond what your mind can fully explain, and how it guards your heart. I remember the exact moment this verse became real to me. I was going through a situation where, logically, I had every reason to be falling apart. The circumstances hadn't changed. The problem was still there. Nothing on paper had gotten better. But for some reason, in the middle of it, I felt calm, not numb, not in denial, genuinely calm. And it confused me, honestly, because it didn't match my situation at all. That's exactly what this verse describes, a peace that doesn't come from your circumstances improving. It comes from somewhere else entirely, and it protects you even when nothing around you has changed yet. I stopped waiting for my situation to get better before I let myself feel okay. I started asking for that peace directly, even while the problem was still unsolved. And more nights than I can count, it actually showed up quiet, steady, and completely out of proportion to what was happening around me. Verse 3, 2 Timothy 1:7. 2 Timothy 1:7 says that fear isn't something we were given. What we were given is power, love, and a sound mind. I used to think fear and anxiety were just part of who I was, like it was baked into my personality. I'm just an anxious person. I said that about myself so many times it became an identity, not just a feeling. This verse challenged that directly. It draws a clear line. Fear is not the thing you were given. A sound mind is, which means the constant racing, the catastrophizing, the spiral that's not your factory setting. That's something that crept in, not something that was built into you on purpose. I remember saying this verse out loud, almost like correcting myself during a panic moment before a big conversation I was dreading, not as a magic fix, but as a reminder this fear is not who I am. It's something passing through. That distinction mattered more than I expected. It's a lot easier to deal with something passing through than something you believe is permanently part of you. Verse 2, 2 Corinthians 10:5. 2 Corinthians 10:5 talks about taking every thought captive, not letting your mind run wild and unchecked. This is the verse that gave me an actual tool, not just a feeling. Before this, I genuinely believed I had no control over my thoughts. They just happened to me. I was a passenger. But taking a thought captive means something specific. It means you don't have to believe everything your brain produces. A thought shows up and you get to stop it, examine it, and decide if it's allowed to stay or if it needs to go. I started doing this literally. A thought like, everyone secretly thinks you're failing, would show up, and instead of letting it run the rest of my night, I would stop and ask, is there actual evidence for this? Or is this just fear talking? Almost every single time there was no evidence, just fear dressed up as a fact. That practice catching the thought before it caught me became the single most practical mental health tool I have ever used. Not because the thoughts stopped coming, they didn't, but because I stopped automatically believing every one of them. Verse 1, Matthew 6:31, and the verse that meant the most to me, Matthew 6:31, where Jesus Jesus simply says, don't worry, asking what you will eat, what you will drink, or what you will wear. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but the way Jesus phrases it as a direct instruction, not just a suggestion, is what got to me. He doesn't say, try not to worry if you can. He says, don't worry, like it's actually possible to set it down. I used to think worry was just the price of caring about something. The more I cared, the more I had to worry, or it meant I wasn't taking it seriously enough. This verse untangled that for me. Caring about something and worrying about something are not the same action. You can care deeply about your job, your family, your future, and still refuse to let worry run the show. That was the verse that finally gave me permission to care without carrying the weight of constant worry on top of it. These 5 verses didn't fix everything overnight. I still have hard nights, but they gave me something to hold on to when my own mind wasn't a safe place to be. If you're in a season like that right now, comment which verse you needed to hear today. You don't have to explain your whole story. Just the number is enough. I read every single comment. If this helped, consider subscribing to Dream Decoded. I share more reflections like this every week. Take care of your mind. I'll see you in the next one.